Should you dump your partner if sex sucks?
Guys, they go to prostitutes. You think they go there for a home-cooked meal? No, they don't. They go because the sex sucks!
So you had a good partner and then one day they fell ill and they couldn't satisfy you sexually anymore in the same way. Well, are you going to dump them? Because this is a principal debate, right? So on principle, are you going to dump them?
Valerie!
Are you going to dump them?
Hey.
Today we're going to talk about sexual incompatibility and if that should be a deal breaker in your relationship. So on my team, affirmative, I have Nick with me.
Yes,
and on
positive.
okay. And on the negative team, we have Valerie and Thomas who disagree. They think that sexual incompatibility shouldn't be a deal breaker. So Nick, do you want to start?
Yes, go.
Tell us why you love sex.
All right, let me give you a statistic. Do you know what's the number one cause of divorce? It is infidelity. So why do people cheat on their partners? Because the sex sucks. Guys, they go to prostitutes. You think they go there for a home-cooked meal? No, they don't. They go because the sex sucks. You're not supposed to laugh. You're supposed to support me with fellow arguments, right? Mm-hmm. And then if we have to define the topic statement of the day, we have sexual incompatibility and we have a deal breaker. So what is sexual incompatibility? It is when people have different libidos. It means your sex drive. That's right. High sex drive, low sex drive, tak match. And when they are incompatible, it probably leads to a lot of arguments. They say masturbation and sex often leads to an increase in your mood, you know, it releases a lot of nice little chemicals right there, and you might feel very frustrated, which is why they call it sexually frustrated when you don't have sex, which is why you lead to breakup and all the other things.
So adding on to Nick's point, sex drive, if the libido difference is too much, it should be a deal breaker. For example, I'm talking about someone who only needs it once a month versus someone who wants it 5 times a week. There is no compromise that can be made that will satisfy both parties in this situation. Mm-hmm. And then let's talk about differences. So there are a lot of ways to measure sexual incompatibility. A second one would be kinks. Let's talk about BDSM or threesomes. If your partner is unwilling to partake in these kind of sexual acts, we cannot force them to or find a compromise, because this is just something that someone shouldn't be forced or feel forced to be obligated to take part in. Also, one step down from that, sexual acts considered to be in the normal or vanilla realm of things. What if your partner refuses to partake in that? Shouldn't it be a deal breaker if it's something that's normal or vanilla? For example, I had an ex that refused to take part in oral sex. And not just with me, but with every girl that he's ever been in bed with, just because he didn't like it. And that to me was a deal breaker. It wasn't something that he was willing to talk about or communicate or find a compromise, because there's no compromise. It's not like you can go halfway down or whatsoever. Another thing, what if your partner enjoys one act more than the other, while it's the other way for you? For example, I know that a lot of guys prefer an orgasm through a blowjob rather than through penetrative sex. Agree?
Not sure.
I don't know.
Virgin.
I don't know
Because
about
I've polled a number of my guy friends, and most of them have come back to tell me that they prefer blowjobs over penetrative sex. But for girls, maybe we prefer if both of us orgasm together through penetrative sex. So if that's the case, we know that men, it's kind of like a one-shot thing. Or, right?
Whoa.
No, because girls are known to have multiple orgasms, while guys can only come once. And I mean, they can probably come a few more times.
Just
if you give them some time. But I'm just saying, if there's only that one shot that you have to take, that you can take that night, then how do you guys compromise on that? Let's talk about how someone prefers sex without condoms versus someone who doesn't like condoms. And there's no compromise to be made here, because what if 1, the girl is allergic, or the guy is allergic, 2, the girl she suffers really bad side effects from contraceptive pills, or 3, she cannot afford other contraceptive methods. And that's the case, then what compromise can you meet? There are a lot of ways here in which sexual incompatibility has no compromise. And what if someone with has a medical condition that doesn't allow for penetrative sex? Disclaimer, this is perfectly fine, but some people are not okay with being in a relationship with these boundaries. So then what happens? Sexual incompatibility in this case should be a deal breaker for these people if they are not okay with it. And the consequences of sexual incompatibility, like what Nick said, sexual frustration and self-esteem issues because partners report feeling rejected and invalidated.
To tap onto this, right, we need to talk about the fact that about deal breakers as well, because what is actually a deal breaker is when your core values misalign. And for a lot of people, more so often in men, sex is actually a big part of their life. their lifestyle, and their daily thoughts.
No.
More than 50% of men actually think about sex every day. Okay, and more than 91% of respondents on a survey think that you should have sex at least several times a week. So if you're telling me we are not supposed to have any at all, that's crazy.
Time's up. I think we presented a really, really strong
Compelling
case.
argument.
I think we're winning this, but the negative team, we still have to give them a shot. So you have 5 minutes to present your points.
You're just horny. Take it away.
I agree.
Wedding
But-
vows often cite that partners will stay together for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do us part. Not until my partner stops partaking in kinky role play will I divorce them immediately. This comparison is crass because their position is crass, especially when it's possible to work on these issues unlike other types of deal breakers. Your partner exists for more meaningful purposes than being a sex toy. But before I proceed on my arguments, let me do a quick rebuttal to things that I've heard. For example, the opposition cited infidelity as the number one cause of divorce. This is a misinterpretation of data. Infidelity is not caused by bad sex. And on that note, bad sex could actually be caused by deeper-rooted problems in the relationship, which could be looked at, like being unwilling to compromise or communicate, and shouldn't be dismissed so quickly as a deal breaker, which I will cover in my preceding argument.
Not giving foreplay.
Exactly. So sex is a big part of lifestyle, right? So I think the opposition was speaking personally, and this cannot be used as data in the debate. So please strike that from record. So now I'll proceed to my main argument. Relationships are meant to be based on more meaningful things like emotional fulfillment and commitment, above and beyond comparably superficial aspects like sex, according to the Journal of Marriage and Family 2012. So should people stop loving each other? And I ask this to the audience as well. Should they stop loving each other once they become old and cannot engage in physical intimacy?
Who say all of
What about when a partner falls ill? This is where the argument of sexual incompatibility as a deal breaker becomes shallow when set against the backdrop of these ideals. Next one. Now, sexual incompatibility is not a reasonable deal breaker in any genuine relationship. Typical deal breakers are often non-negotiables that indicate something truly morally incompatible or that reasonably suggests that person is bad for you. For example, violent behavior, knowingly exposing you to dangerous situations, engaging in criminal activities that could implicate you, or even having different ideas about, the way you live, religion. No, these are fundamental differences that cannot be changed. Meanwhile, sexual compatibility does not touch on moral compatibility, nor is it as severe as the aforementioned deal breakers, since it's an issue that can realistically be communicated and worked on. And that would address the proposition point, right? So, sexual incompatibility is often a symptom of relationship problems. Like any obstacle, it can be addressed and resolved rather than promoting extreme reactions like ending the relationship. So to use sexual incompatibility as the sole reason to end something, as denoted by the word deal breaker, is short-sighted. You should not just target the symptoms without addressing the root cause. There's counseling, there's actually taking time to work on the relationship. And sex is not the only way to achieve intimacy, but we can expand on that later. I'll hand the time over to Thomas.
Yeah, I'm going to build on the part where she said any issue can be addressed and resolved. So I know y'all must be worried now. Wow, if I sexually incompatible, then how do I resolve? Let me give y'all some options, okay? And I think these are reasons to see why sexual incompatibility is not a deal breaker, okay? For example, arranged marriages have a statistic of 4% divorces, where love marriages is 40%. You really think the arranged marriages so heng sui, all of them, the sex so good, man, all right? And then communication and compromise. Okay, there's also this saying, opposites attract. So maybe you like BDSM, the other person likes vanilla. I think what's at the core of it is communication. If you can communicate well and compromise, the sex might not be compatible, but for Monday, we do BDSM. Tuesday, we do vanilla. I think things can be talked out and then you all just have to learn how to act a bit, okay? And then going into the relationship, I think it's mainly about the patience and communicate once again, right? So a lot of people go into it, maybe the first few times you all do it and it's not compatible, you want to break up already. I think that's the wrong way to look at it. You all need to get to know each other. It's a dance, you got to figure each other out. And then maybe you would start developing that sexual compatibility. But let's say into the relationship, it's still not compatible, then never mind, give it a few more years. I think your libido will die down already. So just no need to have sex. In the end, having that intimate moments with your partner is more important than having a oomph moment, a one-shot moment in the bedroom at night. So if sex is all you care about, going into a relationship, then maybe what you want is a friend with benefits and not a partner in life lah.
Okay, with that being said, that's their last point. I don't know if it's compelling enough. I am not sweet. Are you sweet, Nick?
Not at all.
All right, and that starts our second round where we debate and we find fault in whatever the other party has just said. I have a bone to pick with you, Valerie. What do you mean when you said superficial things like sex? Sex is not superficial. Sex is a medium for intimacy.
Did you hear me correctly? I said comparably superficial. You had heard me correctly.
How is it comparably superficial when
Oh.
sex is a basic and bottom need on the hierarchy of human needs?
Oh, so when we get married to people, do we go, oh, I just want you for sex because that's the most important thing? What about emotional fulfillment, emotional
they are
connection?
equally important.
It doesn't have
That's
to
my
be the
point.
most important thing, but it is an important thing.
I never denied. Our side has never
You
denied.
just said comparatively
the
not as
importance.
important.
Something can be important and be comparably not as important.
No,
As
the
the other things.
argument is that they are all
You
equally
are
as
hearing,
important.
but you're not
You are
listening,
not
okay?
listening. We are fighting that they are all equally as important. And for you to take it away and to take the importance away like that and to say call it superficial comparatively, we don't agree with that.
That's why we are on opposite sides of the table, because we are trying to prove to you that sex should be comparatively.
I think the
seen
way
as
I look at it is like, okay, you can compare these two, right? And would you rather be very dead through the relationship, right? But then at night you have that one like, wow, he them hot, them.
No,
sex,
but here
you
we're
know?
not talking about like sex being the true focus of the relationship. We're saying
Yes.
whether sex should be a deal breaker or not. And
Exactly. And so
incompatibility is
in
an
that
option.
case, right?
Yeah.
If everything else is good, just the sex is bad, right? But there is intimacy, there is whatever. But then maybe his pee too small. Does that really break the relationship?
Yeah,
I
warrants
feel
a
no.
breakup.
Okay, then
Right,
let me ask you a
Shouldn't
question.
it is an important
Let me-
core
let's-
of a relationship.
So if you are in a loving relationship with someone who is good for you, you are sexually compatible, everything is great, right? So one day they fall ill. Now they cannot fulfill the same level of, they cannot give you the same level of sexual
His pee-pee
gratification.
don't grow.
Should you then dump them? Answer the question.
Okay, I
Answer
think
the
this
question.
is a very exaggerated
No,
example
no,
to
no,
win
but it's a very
point.
real example.
No, because if we're talking about sexual incompatibility from the get-go, I agree. Because work-life stress, lifestyle changes, all these can fluctuate your libido. I agree. And sometimes these change in a relationship. If
Exactly.
you have a long history of dating, obviously we are supposed to work through it. But from the very get-go, if you get into bed with a guy and he's just unwilling to go down on you, he has a really small penis.
He's a dead fish.
Or she smells so bad.
Yeah.
Like a yeast infection, a bread is baking right in there.
She smell like
you know
the
that.
I think that comes to the point of like when you enter a relationship, right? I feel like there needs to be some period to like figure things out.
Yeah,
I think
so-
it's a communication. It needs to like grow the chemistry.
Exactly, you talk about that point about building over a few years, right? These
Yeah.
kind of things, right? But at the same time, this is a deal breaker, right? We are not throwing you into a relationship right now where you are set in stone, right? These few years, you realize, oh, we are sexually incompatible. You know, it might take you 6 months, it might take you a year, it might take you 2 years. Suddenly, you develop new things, new kinks and stuff like that. But like, if it's really important to you, you should definitely break up. Right? It should
And
be a
in
deal
this
breaker.
case, what if she's like doing everything else right? She buys you your One Piece figurines. She
But if
gambles,
she's
she
not
goes
willing
gambling
to
with
dress
you.
up as Nico Robin, then what is she really for?
No, like she will dress up, but then just like the sex don't
We
feel
have
good
a
lah. You
confession.
know.
We have a confession from their side already. They have admitted that is very important to them, much more than love and much more than someone actually knowing you, trying to be there for
It
you
is
in
not
your life.
more important
If
than
she's
love.
not
It
willing to
is
dress up
important.
as, I don't even know what character you said, then what is she for? That's a good question. So let's ask the audience, what is your partner for?
No, but like,
Tell us in the comment
like
section.
what Thomas said, compromise on BDSM. How do you compromise on BDSM? Let's say your girlfriend really wants to put a strap on and to fuck you with a 10-inch dick.
Man the fuck up. Just spread them cheeks. Like if you can fuck her, she can fuck you too.
Exactly,
Like,
you're
hey,
being-
gender equality, man.
You're
just-
an ideal boyfriend to have
Yeah,
because
like-
now you're being compatible with our sexual
Yes,
urges.
yeah.
So, yeah,
So that's
I-
good.
I
We
don't-
won't break up
no,
with
but
you.
I don't enjoy it, you know, in that, I mean, I'm sure some of you do, but I don't enjoy it in that moment. We're not compatible in that moment, but I compromise because I love her.
No, but there are so many
Imagine my girlfriend
things
sees this and
in
starts
the-
asking me for you know.
There are so many things in the realm of like sexual acts that a lot of people are not comfortable with. For example, there are people who are in committed relationships who want someone else, a stranger, to come into their bedroom, fuck their partner while they sit on a chair and watch, and they want to be degraded while everything's happening.
Let's say there is a specific thing that I cannot fulfill for my partner, right? I think then to me it's a compromise. Because I know that I cannot be that 100% like sex god that she wants. And I think it's very hard to hit that note with anybody that you date, right? If y'all do, I think it's a magical like, okay, fantastic, fit, right? But if I cannot fulfill that 100%, right, there is some kind of compromise that we can give so that it is good enough.
Yeah. I completely agree.
And then everything else you complement with intimacy, foreplay, or like romantic things you do throughout the relationship to build that intimacy even more. Like ultimately, I feel the big umbrella above all of this, whether it's sex or whether it's just buying flowers or whether it's a kiss on the forehead, that kind of thing, it's all under intimacy, right?
But a lot of the acts that you just mentioned, they are acts of sexual incompatibility if someone refuses to give them. So right now you are just isolating sex as in penetrative sex itself and saying like, oh, if that doesn't go one way or another,
blowjob,
but like everything else, what if someone just doesn't want any of that?
I don't think this is an issue of it not being you cannot, like, it's not like you cannot solve it, because a lot of times you guys are asking, how will you this, how will you that? So it's something that couples can actually answer for themselves if they put in the effort and the commitment to communicate about these things with each other, and individual couples can answer this for themselves. So it actually is something that can be solved.
So I did talk to my ex.
Point. This is going to blow your mind.
And also, right, this is a principle
wait.
debate.
This is going to blow your mind as well.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, you all ready? You ever heard of this Japanese man who married a doll? No penetration, no sexual compatibility.
How do you know that?
You can have no sex.
How do you know that he doesn't fuck her?
Yeah, I'm
How do you
pretty
know
sure
that?
he does.
She can't say no. He can do whatever he wants.
It's a
That's the sexual compatibility. He's completely dominant and she's completely submissive.
Exactly, he gets to do whatever he wants to her.
Like,
you don't know that. Are you in the room when they do stuff?
I don't know.
Exactly.
But it's a talk. Then we look at open relationships instead. Maybe they are easier because...
Okay, open relationships.
Yeah, more okay.
So what do you have to say about open relationships?
It's the same lah. So like, for example, if you and your partner, right, tongue match in the bedroom, then you all talk about it, then you're like, let's have an additional partner to serve that need.
But
if this is something that can be communicated.
That's a deal breaker to a monogamous relationship, because if there was sexual compatibility, there wouldn't be a need for an open relationship.
We are not limiting it to monogamous relationships.
Yeah, but having an open relationship or having a monogamous relationship is actually a type of sexual compatibility where you're open to having these kind of conversations.
Because you guys are bringing up like specific sexual examples where people may or may not be okay with it. But I think this is a principle debate. So the question is, should this be a deal breaker in principle? So we are assuming that people are in committed relationships. They should be willing to put in effort to communicate. They should be willing to do this and that.
Why are you assuming that they are in committed relationships? Can't it just be me getting to know a guy and then realizing, oh, we are sexually incompatible and I want to call it off? It's a deal breaker.
You give up so easy.
Yes.
Yes. And I know for a fact some of us here do give up quite easily, when we are checking out
I usually only
a suitable partner.
Have sex after I get married. So I'm not sure.
And it's okay for them to say.
And then, I'm kidding, by the way. That's okay, right? That's your sexual compatibility, right? But if there was a girl that was really into you and then she was like, oh, but I need to test him out before I seal the deal, right? Then after that it becomes a sign of incompatibility and she will or might break up with you.
Okay, and on our side, we're saying that the girl should at least take some steps to see how it can be remedied first. Because we are saying that in terms of principle, it should not be a deal breaker.
I want to try. I want to know the goods. Then after that, you over there, no.
Okay.
We analyze the question.
I show her my PP.
We analyze the question.
Is that enough?
Okay, then I bring my personal experience into it. I dated a guy who just refused to have oral sex, to give oral sex to any girl that he's ever dated. He just refused. Okay. So in that sense, the communication's out. There's sexual incompatibility that cannot be settled.
Must you have oral sex?
It's important to me.
Yes, it's important to me.
Very
I like it
important,
when a guy goes down on me.
So in that case, right, you would be actually supporting our side because, right, you tried to communicate with him, you tried to work it out, right?
And bad sex becomes a deal breaker.
But you didn't immediately dismiss him, right?
No, we are not on a side of instant dismissal.
Wait, was there anything else good about this guy?
Yeah, a couple of things.
No,
like
you misunderstanding us.
I feel like you really had to hesitate there.
No, but
so I feel like maybe the
how is
draw
that
for him wasn't
important?
strong enough for you to overlook going down.
Actually, I feel like the proposition hasn't actually answered our question because this is a principle debate. You haven't answered the question. You haven't answered the question.
You all keep thinking that the more we look at you, then we cannot have sex. We are.
I think all you want is sex. You are disgusting.
Whoa.
Answer the question. So you had a good partner, and then one day they fell ill and they couldn't satisfy you sexually anymore in the same way. Well, are you going to dump them because this is a principle debate, right? So on principle, are you going to dump them?
Valerie!
Are you going to dump them?
Okay, it's like any other relationship. When we communicate, we talk about problems, and if it doesn't work out, we break up.
Incompatibility is
Yes
a
or no?
valid reason for any breakup. If you're
Can you answer the
incompatible
question?
with lifestyle, everything else, it's
Answer the question.
What's the question?
So if the person fell ill and they couldn't satisfy you sexually,
oh my
by
God,
principle,
we've been through this.
are you going to yes or no? Are you going to say that?
For the sake of her, like, can you all just answer?
If you guys have a long history of dating, obviously you want to be more committed. You are more inclined to work it out. But from a get-go, if you're just getting to know
Yeah, it's
someone
a deal
and there's
breaker.
no like sunken cost or whatsoever, if you're sexually incompatible, it doesn't hurt you to just call it off.
Deal
But-
breakers are for initial parts of
this
the
goes
relationship.
back to like the points which we have already covered, right? Which is basically my side is saying that if it's the initial part of the relationship, means you actually haven't developed anything else yet.
Yes,
So
yes,
as
yes.
much as maybe what you're looking at is from the get-go, let me clear sexual compatibility first.
Yes.
But for me, it will be more like, let me look at everything else first. Sexual compatibility, if it's not really there, but everything else can be fulfilled, I'm okay.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
But what,
So would you agree with that? Would you be okay?
I don't think I'll be
Yes
okay
or no?
with it.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, it must have the sex.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It
tough.
cannot be.
Understand, brother.
Sex is pretty good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Understand.
It is, really is. I don't know if there's a winner from this debate, but we'll
We
move on
won
to our
already.
next part. And the next part is a discussion on emotional compatibility and sexual compatibility, and which one we think is more important.
All of us will probably agree that both are important, right?
Which one's more?
Emotional.
Actually, I think in a relationship, the sex part is slightly higher. So sexual intimacy is slightly higher than the emotional side because through emotional compatibility, right, you essentially have best friends. But the main segregation between going from a best friend to a partner is that sexual
sex.
compatibility and
The sex.
kind of like that one last step of like, starting a family and whatnot lah. So that's the main thing lor. That's why I feel like the emotional side, I would say on a day-to-day emotional is the most important. But if you're talking about specifically going into a relationship, I think that's where the sex part is the main like differentiation.
I would love to hear Valerie's thoughts on this.
Why?
She seems a bit attacked when you were talking.
No, I didn't feel attacked. It's just that was
No,
interesting.
we have no camps anymore.
Yeah, we have no
I can say
camps.
whatever I
Yeah.
want.
Yeah, that's why
Right.
I want to hear.
Yeah, lor.
Personally, I think both are important. But if you ask me which is more, I would say emotional is more important. There's no right or wrong. I think both are valid. It's just that for me, I think that to be with a partner, love is very important to me. Like, to be known is to be loved, right? And if somebody loved me so much, they would do anything to make me happy. I would do anything to make them happy. That would extend to the bedroom as well. Meanwhile, if we prioritize like sex first, right, they could really like having sex with you, but that doesn't mean that they love you. That doesn't mean that they are always going to act in your best interest all the time. That doesn't mean that they know you.
Curious,
you know?
so you love your partner, you willing to do anything for them in the bedroom?
Yeah.
Hey,
Very
what you thinking?
interesting.
Hey, I see your eye moving on.
So
No, but-
we'll just
okay.
leave Valerie's Instagram handle there.
Hey, stop!
You can reach out.
Wait. In the first place, it's not easy for me to just love somebody. That's why I say love very important. You don't anyhow. You don't anyhow.
Okay, but sex is usually quite fleeting. That's what I feel. It's like in that, like, let's say a good hour and a half, right? It's in that moment of the
So
day.
long.
Not just 10 minutes.
Camera on now. This kind of thing lah, right? 1 hour foreplay. Then
so the
30
good 4 minutes,
Yeah.
and then-
Okay. Then so it's quite fleeting. It's in that moment. My girlfriend and I have talked about before. It's like the foreplay is not even when you all start foreplay in the bedroom. The foreplay can even start when the day starts. Means that whole day of like bringing her out on a date
Hey,
or
you know what
buying
I'm wearing?
flowers or treating her nice through the day, right? That builds up the intimacy for the sex to be even more passionate at the end of the day. And I think if you replicate that for being consistently throughout the weeks and just your relationship in general, right? That build up of intimacy is much more important than the sex. That's how I interpret the emotional compatibility part.
agree.
Like
You're
if,
right. Yeah.
if you build that emotion well, the sex will naturally be much better.
Yeah.
Right.
That's really good.
And then
yeah.
if you want to up the sexual level, then it's about communicating about the sex itself specifically already, right?
Yeah. And to add on to that, right, I would double down and say emotions are really important because when he says that reminded me that when the person really takes care of the emotional part, it is actually foreplay and it actually does help in that area. But if there wasn't that emotional part, right, it's very like rote and mechanical and I don't really feel invested in it.
Okay, let me pose a situation. You're in a relationship with someone, emotional compatibility, 10 out of 10, whatever, but this person just has no libido, no sex drive. Doesn't want to have
no
sex
drive.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
like,
for
It's
me,
happened, and
you
I
cannot-
actually
yeah.
do know like a real
Whichever
life
lah.
situation. Like it has happened to someone that I know. But
I
he's-
think that kind of thing you figure out. There can be a lot of reasons, right? So one might be like, for example, stress. One might be, so I think it also comes down to if it's a deal breaker, if it's, for example, the physical attractiveness. Like, for example, if the girl feels that if I don't have sex with her means that she feels less attractive for me, how do I put it into words? feels like I am less attracted to her.
Just-
if that drops
yeah.
her self-esteem,
Yeah.
I think that is a problem. But if she is very firm on her own self-esteem, don't need to have sex, she still feels attractive, she still feels sexy, and I'm just in a phase of my life where I'm just not that into sex because I've got all these other things that are happening. If that works, that works.
I think
Right.
it's very hard to not feel. Okay, so if my partner refuses to have sex with me, it's not like I would feel I'm unattractive or ugly or terrible looking, but I would feel I'm unattractive to my partner.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
that would really hurt my self-esteem. I think it's a
Yeah.
form of validation for me,
It's-
which might be bad. Is it? It is.
I mean,
I
the
think
the
it's-
reason for why he doesn't want to do it, is it because he is asexual? That means nothing can change it, or is it about
Okay,
you?
this is a hypothetical situation.
Yeah,
It has never happened to me.
Oh.
So I don't know how
Yeah,
to.
Yeah.
if for me, if he's really perfect for me in every way, and I already love him, right, I'll be okay with that. Then I'll just find a different way to work around it. If he
Yeah.
loves me too, then
Well,
means
there's no
that
way.
he needs to find other ways to supplement that part of it, right? To make
Right.
you still feel like attractive to him and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I
Yeah.
guess no matter what he says, right? To me, it's like actions speak louder than words. If you don't want to have sex with me, then obviously you just don't find me
Like
attractive.
if you like
lor.
me, then chase
Can
after
still-
me
can
lah.
still-
You love me, then
Yeah,
fuck
can
me
still
lah.
cuddle, right?
can still
You know?
cuddle.
No, I think cannot.
Like I
If
would
she's
still love you. I wouldn't leave him just because of that. Like he said, "Oh, sorry, I can't have sex." I'll be like, "Okay, I still love you." Like, maybe that's just me. Everyone's
guess
different.
I
That's
guess
just me.
it just depends on how important sex is to you as a person.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. But I would think that it is important to most people.
Most people lah.
Personally, I rank emotions just a little bit higher because my fear. I think that's just how I see relationships, and also my fear. Like is the example I put up. Why one day something happened to my face, and he doesn't think I'm cute anymore, and then is he just gonna abandon me because of that? Because
Can I address your point on wanting to do everything for your boyfriend, lover in the bedroom?
yes, go ahead.
I think it's a bit unhealthy because I think you should be able to voice out things that you are not comfortable with.
Of course,
or
I will.
compatible with, you know. Yeah.
When you say anything, I don't know what you were thinking of, but for me, when I say
Five,
anything,
no,
Like
it could
man,
be
like
as
you.
simple as going down on him. It could be that.
I
Yeah.
mean, if I
But-
don't want, I'll just say I don't want to. But if he wants it so bad,
Yeah. No,
Wait,
I,
what?
I can
on
still
his
try.
birthday lah,
Like on his
lor.
birthday, or like
Yeah,
anniversary, or like National Day.
no,
then,
I still think you should be able to address these
Huh?
problems
Yeah.
with communication
Of
and
course.
openly. Yeah.
As with any other relationship
Yes,
problem.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I agree.
Still
I think
communication at
what's
the core
happened
lah.
to me before is I have voiced out that I'm uncomfortable with certain things, and the guy still went ahead again behind my
I
back.
went to a sex therapist and they taught me how to do this. So there was a husband that liked to hit the women, and she
Spanking lah.
really hated being hit because she felt like it was very demeaning. So the core feeling of it is being demeaned.
Yep.
She didn't like to be lower than the husband.
But the husband wants to feel
But the
dominant.
husband wants to exert power on her. So they came to a compromise because of the core feeling. So after that, the husband calls her goddess and then hits her. And then she feels okay about it.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, yeah,
I thought it
that's
was
good communication. I
thought
like
it was a
it.
bit different.
Yeah.
Ask her
Yeah.
to bark or something.
Yeah, goddess.
No, yeah.
That's a great example of
Yeah,
how
they
they
work
work it
around.
out.
So you know what? We have not reached a conclusion. Why don't you guys let us know what you think
Yes.
in the comment section?
Break up.
Obviously, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all the other stuff. And thank you to my wonderful guests for joining me today. We almost broke into a fight. I think we'll continue this off screen.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.